So, do you hate scope creep? Do you even know what scope creep is? I'm today going to be sharing a few tips on scope creep given my background, so please do stay and watch as much of the video as you can, because there are going to be some golden nuggets shared today. So with my experience and my background working in a top 10 accountancy practice, then working for a niche practice, then setting up my own accountancy practice, which I then later sold. I have learned so much in the last 3 years as well, working alongside Mr. Mark Wickersham when it comes to value pricing and working with and training over 1,000 accountants and bookkeepers worldwide. So one of the things that I picked up on was scope and scope creep. So what is scope creep? Let's cover that first. So what is scope creep? So scope creep is when you agree a series of work or a series of services with a client, and then we do the work and we end up getting asked additional questions. So the easiest thing would be, let's think of, so for example, it could be we've agreed to do the bookkeeping, and then we're asked to do the payroll, and we end up doing the payroll because the client thinks that payroll is included as part of their bookkeeping. Don't worry, I have actually had a client ask that. Why are you not doing my payroll? I thought you said you were going to be doing my bookkeeping. So it does happen, and the main reason for that, and why it's important that we agree scope of work and we make sure the customers understand it from the outset, is because we will end up with scope creep. Does that make sense? So when we're agreeing with the client, so when we're sat down with the client and we're saying to them, okay, we are going to do your bookkeeping, what does that entail? How many transactions does that entail? What are we going to do for that? What software are we going to provide? Are we going to do software integrations? Unlimited support, what does that include? What does that encompass? Does that make sense? And we need to bridge that gap between what clients want and what they need. Hi Stephen, hope you're well. Stephen, if you have any questions, please do ask in the comments section there. I can see all the comments coming up on screen, so if I turn away from camera, you'll see that there. But thanks for joining me today, and yeah, we are covering scope and why scope is so important. And to be honest with you, the number one mistake I see business owners making when it comes to scope is is ultimately overcomplicating it. If you think about it, let's try and simplify things. And I've mentioned this before, but let's look at some of the most successful companies in the world. So let's look at Apple. So yes, you might think Apple, they're not a service delivery provider, but what they do is they simplify. What they do is they create a product, and they create a product specifically for a target audience in mind and keeping up with the latest technology. So when we're keeping up with the latest technology, let's have a look at the iPhone and how they package that together. So what are you getting as part of the iPhone? What is the scope that is included within your iPhone? So what they're doing is they're packaging it together, but they're not overcomplicating things. They're not saying, right, okay, you get a choice of the frame of the phone, you're getting a choice of lenses, you're getting a choice of the glass that's in the back of the phone, you're getting a choice of colour. You're getting, you can have it gold plated, you can have a different screen, you can have different battery size, you can have different components, you can have better chipset. You know, they're not trying to overcomplicate. They're trying to take all of that complexity out to make it nice and simple for us as the consumer to understand, okay, we're buying the latest iPhone, and if we're buying the latest iPhone, we're getting the latest technology. Does that make sense? And what we're doing as accountants and bookkeepers is typically we're overcomplicating it. We're overcomplicating the scope, and we're going to the clients and we're saying, right, okay, we'll post 100 purchase transactions, we'll post 50 sales transactions, we'll reconcile 150 bank transactions, we'll do your VAT returns, your GST returns, we'll do your tax returns, we'll do this, we'll do that, we'll do all of this, we're going to provide you with your QuickBooks Online, we're going to provide you with your receipt bank, and we're bombarding them with all of the component parts that make a very, very good bookkeeping service. But obviously we need to have those, we need to understand those and communicate with those in our proposal documentation, but maybe not on the face of it when we're selling our services, because we don't want to overcomplicate and we don't want to confuse our customers. If our customers are coming at us looking for a bookkeeping service, we need to be answering their problems. Does that make sense? And we need to be packaging something together to solve their problems and keep it nice and simple. And when I say simple, I mean just pick one industry. Don't pick multiple industries, just pick one industry that you work with. Create a product for that industry. If you're using Xero or you're using QuickBooks, then only sell that as a productized service. So this is my QuickBooks Online service for hospitality. This is my QuickBooks Online service for tradies. This is my QuickBooks Online service for retailers. And you can even niche it down even further. This is my QuickBooks Online service for retailers that use this specific EPOS system or this specific point of sale system. So what you're doing is you're niching your product down, and the reason why that is so important is from a pricing point of view. It makes your life easier because you can give a fixed price, because you can create a system and process for delivering that service. So okay, let's rewind a little bit and let's think of it. Every single client we take on as a bookkeeper, when they're in a different industry, when they're in using different software products, when they've got different internal systems and processes for sales, different internal processes for purchasers, how can you create a scalable business based on all those variables? I'm looking for any answers in the comments. So how do you think you could create a scalable business when every single time you're creating a new project, essentially, you're creating a new project, so that's another project you have to manage for every single client you take on? Like, how can you scale that? Because if you know, please do share it, and I will be quite happily to hear it out. And actually, I'll bring you on live and you can share with the audience as to how you can scale that. Because in truth, you can't. It's too big a job, because every single time you as the business owner, if you're being drawn into doing the work and you've got different products for every single different client, you're throwing all these balls up in the air, and you're trying to then catch all these balls, and it's too stressful. You know, I've been there, I've done that. You know, I ran a very successful accountancy practice here in the UK. One of the biggest mistakes I made was when I started the business, I took on everyone. It didn't matter who they were. It didn't matter on price. It didn't matter on anything. I just took them on. I was like, yeah, I'll take you on. I'll take you on. You know, at no point did I go through the scope of the work and say, look, this is categorically what I can do for you. I just kind of went and said, yeah, I'll do your bookkeeping. But what did that entail? It just entailed a nightmare for me, because I ended up doing cleanup, because the client didn't know that wasn't bookkeeping. I just agreed that I would do that as part of bookkeeping. Actually, I didn't fully understand it. I didn't fully understand what to include as part of a bookkeeping service. I didn't understand where the lines had got blurry, if that makes sense. So it's so important that we get that scope right, because that shapes everything else. The scope is almost like, I like to think of it as the component parts that we're building or putting together in a systematic approach, where we, the business owner, don't have to be the one delivering all the elements of that product. Because if we are, and we're the ones delivering all those elements, we can't scale it. We don't have a business, we have a job. And our job is to project manage all those clients and do all of their work, whilst also trying to grow our business, whilst trying to manage a family or friends and partners, manage our mental health, our physical health. You know, doing all of that, it's too much. It's too much. What have we got here? Bundle an offer to answer their pain points. Exactly. So as Stephen says here, so bundling an offer to answer their pain points. I've heard a lot of people saying recently how customizing each bookkeeping service is like the way forward. Yes, if you want to charge higher prices and if you just want a job, that's the way to do it. Does that make sense? That is genuinely the way to do it. If you want a job where you're the one doing the bookkeeping and you're the one doing the quotes and you're the one building everything, so you've got to build custom quotes for every single client, and you're going to project manage each of those new clients that you onboard because they've got something that's different. So let's take an example. So it could be that you work with 0 clients and then you decide to take on a QuickBooks Online client. Well, all of a sudden you've just created yourself even more headaches. Now you need to project manage not only a 0 clients, you now need to project QuickBooks Online clients. You now need to create the systems and processes for how to do QBO clients. And now you might be thinking, well, why do I need systems and processes if I'm going to be doing it myself? Exactly. This is exactly the point. What I'm trying to do is I'm trying to help accountants and bookkeepers create businesses that are an extension from themselves, they're not part of the business. They're not the one doing all the work. They're not the one working 80 hours a week. I've been there, I've done that, I've got the t-shirt, and I don't want that for you either. So 3 scope questions you really need to ask, and it's more to yourself, like what are the clients I want to work with? And I've got 3 things here. So the first one is turnover. So what's the turnover of client that you want to work with? Ignore all of the different bandings. So 0 to 100,000. Are they VAT registered? Are they GST registered? Let's start to think about what you want. Let's start with the end in mind, as Stephen Covey would say. Let's start with the end in mind. Who do you want to work with? Who's going to pay you the fees? That you want. Is it going to be a client turning over $30,000 or £30,000, or is it going to be a client turning over £500,000 or $500,000? Like where is their turnover? Where does that fit? So the scope of work is I will work with businesses that turn over between 250,000 and £500,000. That will really help you from a market research point of view, because you can go online and you can find all of the businesses that earn 250,000 to £500,000. Like, that is relatively easy to do. You can do lots and lots of research. You can look on Companies House. You can start to get those details from Experian of all the places. It doesn't cost that much to get access to that data here in the UK, but that data will really help you ascertain, well, okay, these are now my ideal clients. These are the people that I need to market to. And where Stephen says bundle an offer to answer their pain points, well, now you know your customers. What are their pain points? Can you reach out to them and ask them, what are their pain points when it comes to putting together their finances? Is it the fact that they don't know their finances? So that's just point number 1. That's just turnover. The second thing that is vitally important is industry, because every single industry brings a new project, brings a new set of systems and processes that you need to map out. So let's take retail, for example. So retail as an example. So we've got retail that is bricks and mortar, and we've got retail that is e-commerce. So again, just those alone, that's a different scope of work. That's a different headache and different clients that you have to work with. They've got different systems and processes. They've got different software. All of that. Does that software integrate with QuickBooks Online? Does it integrate with Xero? Does it integrate with the tool sets that you're using? Can you solve problems for those customers? So again, getting really, really clear on who and so what their turnover is and what industry they're in, and you're starting to define who it is that you want to work with, and that will really help you scope. So that's number 2. Number 3 is volume. So now we know the typical size of revenue. Now we know the industry. Now we're going to use industry experience to identify, well, okay, typically, how many transactions does a company of that size have? So for example, if we're working in retail with bricks and mortar, and we've got 5 or 6 clients that work in retail, bricks and mortar, and they're all within 250 to £500,000 in revenue, we should be able to determine how many transactions that they're going through their business. Now, it might be dependent, obviously, if they're selling high-end products or low-end products. But again, that could be a scope question that you would ask, but this is not part of this. So just number 3 is just volume of transactions. So let's keep it nice and simple and just focus on those 3 things. So 1 is turnover, 2 is industry, and 3 is volume. And that will really help you identify in very, very clear communication to your clients as to the type of turnover that you're looking for to work with. So you could even create a sales page saying we only work with businesses that turn over between 250,000 and £500,000. You might be saying, Jamie, you're crazy. No, I'm not crazy. What I'm saying is you're identifying your target market. So what you're saying is I might work with you if you turn over less than £250,000, but you're going to have to come at me and potentially get a bespoke quote. I don't want to work with you, but it's going to be more expensive if we do that. And then industry, you're communicating in a language that your customers can understand. You know, and Steve and I have a lot of laughs about this, but when you're talking with tradies, you know, they don't mind the occasional swear word, you know, and dropping the occasional swear word in there, because we're communicating in a language that they would communicate with on site. Does that make sense? And we're trying to break down those barriers. So don't be afraid to use those words not online, because you will get blacklisted. But when you're communicating with those clients, don't be afraid to use those words, if that makes sense. And then volume, again, volume is going to come out of it, because that's really going to help you identify, well, okay, these are the ideal clients. This is typically the amount of work that we'll see as part of that. And yes, you will have winners, and yes, you will have losers. But the end result is we look at our profit and loss account, we look at our revenue, we look at our cost of sales, we look at our expenses, and we look at our profit. You know, and are we generating what we want? And if we're not, then we need to go back to the drawing board and say, well, okay, this is not the type of client we want to work with. We need to revisit this, and I would never ever suggest that you revisit this like every 3 months. Do it every 12 months. Every 12 months, look at your profit and loss account, look at your cost of sales, look at your expenses, look at your profit. Are you getting what you want? And that comes back down to time. So are you working the hours you want to work? And number 2, are you earning the money that you want to earn? And if you're answering those 2 questions and it's a tick in that box, then you're moving in the right area. Don't get pulled off into different directions. So just stay in your lane, create a product for those customers, really simplify it, and the results you'll get will blow your mind. You won't get as many leads, but you don't need many. And again, let's put this into perspective. If you know that your clients are between 250 to £500,000, typically the size of fee I would see for bookkeeping is anywhere north of £2,500 to £5,000, which is about 1% of revenue. Anywhere north of that number. So how many clients at £2,500 to £5,000 would you need to hit your targets? If you know that your profit margin's around 50%, how many do you need? Do the calculations, do the maths. So let's just have a look what Stephen's got here. So does scope still show all software included? Yeah, I believe it does, because again, what we're trying to do with our scope is we're trying to decide the scope of work. We're trying to simplify it for our customer. We're trying to say, okay, this is what you get as part of your package if you want to see the details. The outcome from a sales focus is you're getting this outcome. You're going to be saving time, you're going to be saving money, you're going to have better financial reports. Like whatever the outcome is that the customer's looking for in your specific industry, you're going to package it together because you're the expert. Does that make sense? Like again, with an Apple phone, I don't want to go to the Apple, in the buying decision, I don't want to customize every single element of the Apple phone, but some elements are customizable. that makes sense? So changing the software included, I don't know, is it a vital component? I would say it is, because like I say, if you offer MyOb, QuickBooks Online and Xero as a potential solution for that client, I think you're potentially opening up a can of worms. Now, I'm not saying close that door completely. What I'm saying is get laser focused, focus on Xero for tradies with a turnover of between 250 and half a million that have got typically, I don't know, 500 transactions a month. That, from a pricing point of view, you know that you're going to be able to price it better. Then in 12 months time you decide, well, actually that bit's working, I don't have to do the work, my staff do the work, I outsource it, I bring in variable outsource work, so they only get paid for the time that they work, or for the outcome that they achieve, so I can make that profitable time and time again. Does that make sense? So we're packaging that together. Construction and hospitality, only 500,000 to 3 million. Okay, I mean that's a big banding, Stephen, but again, it's great to see that, because you what I would question to you, Stephen, is can we get even more finite on the detail here? If it's construction, is that 3 million to 1 million, and hospitality, is that 500,000 to 1 million? Does that make sense? To have a specific income banding specifically for hospitality and a specific income banding for construction, because then what I would say next is create a sales page for each of those, and create a pricing page for each of those, to really entice customers in. You're always going to end up with potentially a custom project as part of the work that you're doing, but I don't really want to focus on that, because that's going to bring you back into the business and not give you what you want. We charge higher prices for our niche clients as we demonstrate industries. Exactly, and you can. I know Mark Wickersham doesn't recommend it, and I don't always recommend it, to actually show your prices on your website. But showing your prices on your website can only do one of two things, and testing is the only way to find out. Is if you know specifically who you want to work with, the number of transactions that they typically have, the software that they're using, you know, the scope is clearly defined and they fit within that scope of work, you can create a fixed price that will be profitable time and time again. It's that easy. Let's not overcomplicate it and go, well, what if they've got this turnover? Well, that's not the product for them. What happens if they're in this industry? Well, that's not the product for them. You know, do you not quote them at all? I would say yes. Don't quote for them yet. Keep them on your list. So keep them on your prospecting list, and just say, look, we're not taking on any more clients at the moment. We'll be back to you when we're free. And you'll actually find that by doing that, it's going to create even more demand for your services. So actually, by turning people away, you're going to create more demand. So that's a great one. What else? We only offer Xero and Receipt Bank. Fantastic. Because again, offering Xero and Receipt Bank, you're already packaging what they need. Does that make sense? And you could, again, trying to keep things simple, if you're working with somebody in hospitality, and right now during the COVID situation, it's saying, well, okay, have things changed? Has the outcome for the client changed? Can I, on this one product, just one product, and I'm going to call it a product, not a service, because we're trying to productize it, on that one product, do I have to change it for the current economic climate? Well, of course you do. Because if you don't, your product might have been solving problems that they had pre-COVID, but now post-COVID they've got new problems. So you might have to rethink. So you might have to bang heads, put your head together and go, well, actually, this package that I've created and this scope of work that I've created for these clients in this product is not suitable anymore. Does that make sense? So it's really just thinking outside the box and getting that. And getting that right, getting that balance, rather than overcomplicating things. I know this from experience, because like I say, when I started my business, I was just sell, bring, and I created a monster. It was awful. We had clients in. We had clients that were musicians, entertainers, car sales, what else? Car import, retail, tech, SaaS, agencies, what else? Coaches, influencers, like just too many to mention. But it just created a nightmare because every single job, I almost had to get drawn into it because of my experience of working with all these different types of clients. I had to then train my staff up how to deal with those types of clients because they'd never dealt with them before. Now, if I take all that headache away and I said I only focus on one typical set of clients, and again I've got an example here. So when I used to work for MTax specifically worked with musicians and entertainers, and actually I created a bit of a problem because my experience wasn't with entertainers and musicians. So when we even got inquiries from partners, so it was typically partners, so it might be husband or wife. They would come to us and they would say, right, okay, my husband's got a business, can you look after their affairs as well? You've done such a good job with me as an entertainer, can you look after my husband's business? And then I started working with those clients, and that's actually how I formed my business, because I was offered partnership to grow that side of MTax's business, but I ended up actually buying that. So that's how I ended up creating my business. But the moral of the story is that the musicians and entertainers, they specifically focused on them. Their pricing, and I can honestly say this, was rubbish because they didn't have the correct pricing structure for the different types of clients. So for example, you might have an A-lister, so somebody who's massively in the press, earning millions and millions of pounds worth of revenue, so many different sources of revenue, charging them the same price as a musician that is busking, as an example. And they're totally different ends of the spectrum. So again, that's because the scope of the work was not clearly defined. Too many clients, too much stress, and you can't deliver on expectation. Amen. And this is where you become a project manager, because you become the project manager for every single job. And when you're becoming the project manager for every single job, but you're also being drawn into doing the work as well, it's too much. It's too much for any person to handle, and it's only a matter of time until that bubble pops. And what I mean is by stress and stress-related illnesses. So, create a business where the outcome is what you want. If the outcome of what you want is you want to create a business with, 20 clients that are all in different industries, you just want a job that's going to ease you into retirement. You might be able to sell that job when you retire, but that's all you want to do. Fantastic, I'm all for it. Fantastic, but then the content that I'm pushing out there is probably not for you, because what I'm really focusing on is freeing you from your business shackles, is freeing you to be able to do more inspiring things, the things that are going to inspire you. And it could be that actually that freedom is actually inspiring you to help your clients more, to do more video content for your clients, to work out ways, innovative ways to create more value for your clients. And that is where the real winner is. Well, anyway, thank you ever so much for joining me. If there's any more questions, please do ask. I've got about a minute and 20 left before I'm going to sign off. Again, probably gone on for too long on this live, but anyway, thank you ever so much for joining me. I really do hope you've enjoyed this. Please do come and join us every Wednesday at 11. We're doing these lives. Please do like and share as well if you're enjoying this content, and if you have any comments in the comment section below, please do ask comments. If you're watching the replay, just put replay below, and that will just help boost it in my feed so I can see that. And then if you have any questions, I will deal with them directly. Anyway, thanks ever so much for your time, and I hope you have a fantastic day. Have an absolutely awesome day. Stay safe. Take care. Bye-bye.